Welcome to Teacher Teams and Distributed Leadership, a study of group discourse and collaboration. Your team members for today are...
Hello, my name is Jamel Kimbrough, and today I will be presenting the review of literature. I currently teach 4th grade in the Washington, D.C. area, where I have been afforded the leadership experiences of serving as grade chair, and I also sit on the school improvement plan team. And my experience with distributed leadership is that it is an effective approach to leadership, considering that it's more from the bottom up, meaning that the principal is not solely responsible for all of the leadership decisions in the school. It is a collective process, and I think that it just makes the organization runs more effective when everybody is a part of the decision-making process. And that is pretty much my view on distributed leadership. Antron?
All right, my name is Antron Murray, and I will be covering the findings of this article, Distributed Leadership. I also sit on a leadership team, and in reading the findings, I really appreciate my leader, my principal, even more, because he makes sure that we have a purpose. He makes sure that we're on topic, and we're not just there just talking about anything. So that's my experience with leadership. And as far as distributing leadership, I believe that that is very important, because one person can't do it all anyway. So it will be a disaster, and pretty much nothing will get done. So that's my experience. Tracy?
Hi, my name is Tracy Blunier. I will be presenting methodologies as well as implications and conclusion. My experience with leadership is that I currently sit as the chairperson of our leadership team. I've had several years in that capacity, and I know that one person cannot do it all, that it takes a group of people to make effective choices, and that everybody has a viable voice in which to contribute to their team. Thank you. The synopsis of this article is that we will be looking at 2 teacher teams and how they contribute to leadership at their high school. We're going to be looking specifically at the strengths and weaknesses of these teams in a collaborative framework. Basically, that just means we're going to be understanding some of their dialogue and deciding if it is effective or ineffective. Here to talk about our review of literature is Jamel.
Hello, everyone. So I'll be discussing the review of literature today. Within the last 20 years, a shift in school leadership has taken place. Experts in the field of educational leadership agree that leadership is not associated with a specific title, but instead it emerges from relationships between people. So in other words, you cannot tell how a school is managed or ran just by looking at the behaviors of the principal. You have to understand the behaviors of all the school personnel within that building. The concept of network leadership is not a new approach to leadership. The concept was first introduced in the 1950s. And in the last few years, a new emergent, well, I would say since about the 1990s, this approach has been on the rebound, and I'll discuss later what it's now called. A quote I would like to share with you is that network leadership helps organizations to make the most of its people. So I want you to get an understanding of what network leadership is without positional power. So these people don't necessarily have a position of power, but they instinctively develop and exploit the broader baseline alliance, resulting in improved performance for the whole organization. Next point, network leadership focuses more on what school personnel do more than who is actually completing the task. So again, it's not associated with just the AP or the principal. It takes a look at what everybody within the school is doing. The idea of network leadership defies the belief that school leadership is associated with a title. To understand distributed leadership, and you see I'm using the term distributed leadership now because I want to say that network leadership is what we called the term back in the 1950s and 60s, and now, for lack of a better way of saying it, is now been repackaged as distributed leadership, but still both take the same approach to leadership. So to understand distributed leadership at the school level, one must conduct a detailed analysis of the way people interact with one another. One understanding of the concept is enhanced, our understanding of the concept is enhanced when we take a look at how teachers, administration, parents, students, and other stakeholders influence one another, because distributed leadership is all about collaboration. It's all about how relationships among people within a school influence each other, and that's what ultimately impacts the way the school is led. Next point, from a distributed leadership approach, interaction between individuals play a central role in accomplishing effective leadership. And this is moving to what this article is really focusing on. This article is seeking to understand, well, the basis of this study is seeking to understand how teacher teams, how they impact leadership. So teacher teams, the concept of teacher teams has allowed many schools to experiment with the idea of distributed leadership. Teachers are divided into teams and granted the task of identifying solutions to predefined problems that the school is battling. The idea of collaborations in regards to educational decisions suggests the change will be more effective and likely to succeed when those responsible for implementing the change are included in the decision-making process. And that just makes perfect sense. We, as future leaders, it's hard for a person or a group of people to just become engaged and just jump on the bandwagon with the new change implementation, and they had no say-so in how it was going to be rolled out. They had no say-so in the decision. They had no say-so in adopting the new change. So this just states that when the whole idea of collaborating, it gives you it makes it more likely that the change will be effective. Okay, despite the importance of including teacher teams in the decision-making process, little is known about the way these teams function. And I thought that was very important because that gives us a baseline as to really why they went ahead with this study. It's very little literature that speaks to that. All right, there is no way to predict the outcomes of socially distributed leadership in advance. The literature states that the problem solutions emerge from schools' collaborative dynamic. In team meetings, teachers find solutions to problems through means of casual conversation with each other. Leadership research has found that self-managing teams are the most effective at problem solving in rapidly changing environments. All right, last slide for the review of literature. The research on distributed leadership is closely related to effective teams. All right? And that concludes the review of literature.
Thank you, Jamel. Thank you. This is Tracy, and I'm here to talk about methodologies. Methodologies is just the method that's used to evaluate the research and see if it is truly effective. So this is a lot of number crunching, a lot of just straight facts up. So you can see from this slide that it is a high school and it has the following population. And I'm not going to read all of this. I'll let you look at it for just a moment. All right. And then we're going to go on to the terms. I want to define the terms so that you understand that when we go through the rest of this study, you will have a reference point. PLT refers to Professional Learning Team. And we will find that in this study there are 2 PLT teams. Discourse refers to the communication by words. So we could just say it's just talking, but discourse is a little more specific because it's being broken down later. Discourse analysis refers to conversational analysis or interaction analysis. And like Jamel had said earlier, if you look at the note, It says discourse analysis has been applied to naturally occurring conversation in other fields, but not to the study of distributed leadership. And this is one of the key areas that the study seeks to find, is how this conversation affects distributed leadership. For the teams, the study was done with 2 teacher teams using audio type and video type. Obviously, they had to write down the words after they were said so that they could take a look at the speech or the discourse. One team was a building professional learning team, and the other was an instructional. And in just a minute, I will show you how those 2 teams were put together. The teams were observed over a 16-week time period, so about 1 semester, I would say. Here are the 2 team breakdowns. In your instructional professional learning team, there was 6 members. There's 3 social studies teachers and 3 English teachers. And obviously their purpose was instructional in nature, and we will see that later on in this study. The other was a building professional learning team, and they had 7 members, but a lot more diverse in their membership. We have a coordinator of student support programs, a gifted education coordinator, 2 social studies teachers, the director of special education, the director of guidance, and the outreach coordinator. And observer field notes were recorded for 18 team meetings. In their discourse, in their speech during their meetings, they were recorded and it was later transcribed. And then through that transcription, it was broken down to Searles methodology. Searles is basically distinct speech acts, and here are a couple of them. One is expressive utterances. Like if you're sitting in a meeting and you agree with somebody, you may go, mm-hmm, yeah, that type of utterance. The second one is commissives and declarations. So it's basically that when somebody talks to you and you're agreeing to do something, so you'll write, an example would be, so you will do the lesson plan portion where you create a project for the social studies task. Yes, that's something that I would create. So it's an action. Here are some broad types of the speech acts. Conveying information by claims, assertions, and so forth. Expressive utterances. Directives, which makes the person have to act on it. And commissives and declarations, once again, a performance of an action. After they broke down the conversation, they used axial and open coding techniques. Basically, it's looking at the talk and the coding techniques, and it creates a profile of the teams. There are certain patterns that talk showcases, and some of those patterns led to positive teamwork, and some led to not positive teamwork. And here to talk about findings is Antron.
All right, I'm Antron. I'll be discussing the findings that the research came up with. First of all, the purpose, the 3 constructs that arose was the purpose, autonomy, and the pattern of discourse. The purpose and autonomy, I'm sorry, let me start over. Purpose, autonomy, and pattern of discourse are the 3 concepts that develop within a professional learning team. As Tracy talked about, the building PLT and the instructional PLT. Interaction analysis of teachers' conversation revealed the additional feature of discourse pattern. The researchers found that there were 2 different prevalent strands of discourse were present in both teams, yet each strand was much more clearly associated with one team than with another. These conceptual concepts were found to have an independent influence on the nature of collaboration present in each professional learning team. Researchers discovered that the PLT, which is the professional learning team purpose, for the two case studies fell into two distinct categories. You had the known problem or the problem solving. With this group, everyone is aware of the issue and techniques that will help solve the issue. And the other category is discovered problem finding. In this case, no one is quite sure how to frame or come up with the issue or what steps to even take to arrive to the solution. According to the researchers in this study, problem-solving teams are designed with a well-defined purpose, and problem-finding teams are created to work towards innovative solutions. And usually with the problem-finding team, they have very little to no information. It's like they're starting from scratch. The PLT, you have two different types of the purposes. You have the closed purpose and the open purpose. In problem-solving purpose, team members focus on particularly information and ideas which is considered closed purpose. Collaborative interaction within the team is characterized by close attention to well-understood tasks related to the topic, which in this case was classroom instructions. During the meeting, the conversation remained focused on the known problems. The members do not talk about things that are not related to the problems. Whereas the BLT has a problem-finding purpose. As stated earlier, the teams are tasked with discovering a new way of framing a problem and identifying new strategies for solving the discovered problems, which is open purpose. There is no agenda because it is a brainstorming phase, and the information that the group is provided is very vague. Before they reach a decision, the team will spend a lot of time brainstorming on ideas and number of ideas to try to reach a decision. Researchers found that when the group doesn't lead to the development of new creative solutions, it can seem as though members are working in frustration, and a lot of times they spend a lot of time arguing about rules and regulations than being productive. All right, and the next concept, the second concept, is autonomy, which refers to the capacity of the PLT to make decisions that will lead to action and change. The PLT autonomy understanding varies according to the quantity and quality of the constraints put upon the group by the administration. Autonomy and purpose are alike in that the conversation in the meeting are focused in the task at hand. Building PLT has been tasked with making recommendations on an issue traditionally under administrative control. The building PLT had the potential to engage in leadership activity that will have a much more broader organization influence. The researcher observed in building PLT meeting that the group conversation revealed that the members are aware their lack of enabling autonomy. They always refer to other authority. They really don't take any leading authority of their own. And the final concept is pattern of discourse. In the BLT group, you have very passive discourse. The conversation is off topic. Like I said before, they have to start from scratch. A lot of times tension can rise because everyone think way out too far outside the box, broaden their ideas instead of narrowing. They really don't have a roadmap to follow in that type of meeting. As far as the instructional PLT, everything is on course. You have a beginning, you have an end, you have an agenda, and everyone pretty much sticks on topic. And that concludes my findings.
The discussion portion of this study focused on, it was a study built on research as it relates to distributed leadership. Therefore, it continued the research of others, but it answered a crucial question of how speech guides and leads teacher teams. An example of that would be if you were sitting in a meeting and the teachers could not agree on something, that speech would be dissected, and we would be looking at how speech patterns affected that disagreement. So maybe somebody would say, I don't think that works. That speech pattern of is already a negative speech connotation. So they were really looking at how discourse, your speech, guides the teacher teams. Is it a positive discussion or a negative one? Their findings were consistent with other research that suggested organizational conditions influence team performance. If we wanted to look back on the instructional PLT, we could see it had a more cohesive group of teachers, the 3 English teachers and the 3 social studies teachers. And they had a distinct agenda associated with this study. If we look at the building level professional learning team, they were looking at a broad problem within their school, and no one felt empowered to be able to make an effective change. The authors suggested that we might want to consider social versus situational distributed leadership to be examined. So there could be another research topic in the future. For our conclusion and implications, 1, the challenge of the problem can influence the team function. If the problem is too big, the function of the team may be limited. Number 2, the nature of shared teams and shared governance can lead to leadership capacity of the team. So if more people are sharing towards the problem and actually taking an active governance role, then it could probably increase leadership capacity. And of course, the social dynamics of distributed leadership should not be taken for granted. And we all know those social situations can be awkward or they can be empowering. And I will let you look at some of these other study recommendations for just a moment. One of the key things I think we need to take away from this study is the last bullet point that says formal leaders and teachers must develop capacities in the areas of facilitation, interaction, and communication. That can no longer be relegated to just the building level leadership, like the principal, but to all of those who serve on leadership teams. We want to thank you, and we hope that you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.